Hi, Sarah Wells Rolland here in Asheville, North Carolina at the Village Potter's Clay Center. This is one of my tutorial beginning throwing demonstrations. I'm going to take 1 pound of clay and teach how to center it, how to open it, and how to efficiently pull that clay up and make a cylinder. So let's get started. What I have here is a wood knife. It comes in a basic toolkit. You need a rib. This comes in the basic toolkit, but frankly, I like to use metal ribs, and you're gonna find when you're studying with me, I'm using metal ribs a lot, so I recommend you invest in a few. This is the smallest mud tool rib, and they make every size. This is just the simple Kemper medium size rib. You're gonna need a good needle tool, something to pick your bat up with, a cutting wire to cut your pot off of the bat, and then I recommend you have several types of sponges because you're going to learn to throw with sponges and they have different properties. So here's an elephant ear sponge, and this is a Scotch-Brite flat dish cloth. I cut one cloth into 6 pieces for throwing. And then the last thing you'll need is a chamois, and that's to prepare your rim. I like to have a measuring stick because we're going to have some goals when we're throwing to get a specific height for your cylinder. So let's get started. This is called a Medex bat, and it is a kind of board that absorbs a little bit of water, which is really nice because when the pot is drying, it actually absorbs moisture out of the floor of your pot. But when you're using a Medex bat, it needs to have a little moisture on it, not a lot of water. It just needs a damp surface so that when you put your clay down, you actually stick to the bat and don't pop off. So what I have here is a prepared 1 pound ball of clay. If you haven't seen my video on how to cut and wedge clay, I recommend you watch that too. So this has been wedged and is ready to go. I'm putting it down firmly in the center of the bat. Make sure that you're not just in a really bad position, that it's way off. You want to be as much to the center as you possibly can, and I consider this good. So I'm going to get my hands wet, and with the heel of my palm on my left hand, I'm going to push this clay down, and with my fingers bent on my right hand, I am going to hold a fixed grip on that clay so that it has to go into center. Now you'll notice my arms are braced against my body and my elbows are against my leg. My left foot is actually on a brick to raise it up a little higher. So now I'm going to take the heel of my palm and push down, and notice how my hands are moving like this. If your hands are moving like that, that's not what you want. You want your hands to not move, and that forces the clay to go on center. So I pushed down with the heel of the palm, and I held this cupped hand where this point and this point held center, and the clay had no choice but to go on center. Now I made that look super easy. It actually takes a lot of practice. So I'm going to take it off center and do it again. I'm going to push down with the heel of my palm, hold my fingers tight, pick my wheel speed up just a smidge, and with that compressed and I'm not moving at all, I'm on center. Now I teach techniques, a way of centering that's going to prepare you to go up in larger volumes of clay. So now that it's on center, I'm going to push in the middle. I'm actually using my middle finger and my thumb, and when I push down in, I don't go straight down into the clay. I go sideways and actually create a little funnel shape. And the reason I do that is because it's easier to pull the clay back when it's not, you're trying to pull the whole straight wall at one time. So when you open to the bottom, you don't want to go all the way to the bat. You're going to want to leave about 1/4 of an inch in the floor. So you're going to estimate first, and then when you think you're close to right, You're gonna take this clay and pull it back towards yourself at around 5 or 6 o'clock. And out it comes, out it comes, out it comes, out it comes. I'm going for about a 3-inch floor. Now you wanna check your thickness now. And I am perfect. I've got a little bit about like a 1/4 of an inch. If you have an inch of clay, you're gonna lose all the clay in the floor of your pot and not have enough clay to make the cylinder. And it's also gonna require trimming it away. And if you don't trim it away, it's gonna be bottom heavy and probably crack or blow up. So take the time to really get the floor right. Now look at my fingers. They are not the same length, but when I'm working on the floor, I bend a finger to make them so that these 2 pads are level. And if this was the floor inside of my pot, these 2 pads push inward across the floor to the middle and out across the floor. And I like to hold a damp sponge when I do that, and it makes for a really good wall. So if this was the floor, here are my fingers pushing across and back. Let's do it now. So I'm pushing down, my arms are still braced against my body. That never changes. And I'm pushing that floor inward and out. And it's just enough pressure to compress it. I'm not making it any deeper. If you have thickness, you'll push down in the middle and make a little buttonhole and then bring that clay back. So I've compressed a few times. It feels pretty good. Now it's time for me to set up the wall to begin to pull a cylinder up. So I'm gonna put a little moisture on it, not a lot. Notice there's no water out here. And I'm gonna take this finger and just push them toward that clay braced against my body, and it makes that clay start upward and a nice even wall. So once I have this started, this is when you're gonna set up the pull at the bottom. I have found when teaching, if you'll push hard against the bat before you go up under the clay, you'll feel confident about the motion of the circles, the revolutions. So I pushed against the bat, I got up under there, my inside fingers are holding the wall. I'm gonna pick my wheel speed up and go up, go up, go up, go up. And what I'm looking for is to make sure that this clay goes all the way around before I move up. All the way around before I move up. Just like that. Otherwise, we won't have an even wall. And when you get to the top, it'll be all messed up. Now this too looks so easy, so don't get discouraged. It's challenging. It takes work. But you can do it. I know you can. All right, I'm gonna push against this clay again, pick my wheel speed up, and it's a revolution, a revolution, a revolution, a revolution, a revolution, a revolution. One of the things that happens a lot, with beginners especially, is you get here and you're so timid you're moving up, but nothing's happening. So you've got to make sure, once you've set up that pull and tucked up under, that your inside fingers are pushing the clay out just a little bit, and your outside fingers, so your inside fingers are above your outside finger, and then your outside finger lifts up while your inside finger pushes out. And you want to watch down here and make sure what you're making is a straight wall. So, I have set up this pull, I've started this wall, and at this point, with a 1/4 of an inch floor, I have a 4.5 inch cylinder that on the outside is 3.5 inches wide and on the inside is 2.5. That means that I definitely have a thick wall right now. Okay, so I'm gonna set up the pull again. I'm pushing up under right here while these two fingers are pushing out just above it on the inside. And then I'm picking my wheel speed up and I'm going around, 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 around. When you get to this top part, you'll have to lighten up your aggressiveness just a little bit or you'll over pull it, but it's still all the way around, all the way around, all the way around. And when you get to the top, you want to compress it down a little bit. So let's see what we have now. We're now at 5 inches. I'm going to give this a little choke inward because it's flaring out just a little. So at the very top, with my hands all the way around it, I'm just going to gently squeeze in. And then I'm going to come below where it's wider and move up and up and up until I have that cylinder back not opening too much at the top. I'm going to put a little moisture in there. I'm going to pick up the moisture off my bat and I'm going to go again. So I'm pushing up under, picking my wheel speed up, and it's a revolution, a revolution, a revolution, a revolution, revolution, a revolution, a revolution, a revolution, and to the top. Let's see what we have now. I'm at a full 6 inches. I'm going to give this just a little choke to a straight cylinder. I'm going to feel the wall, maybe a little bit more to take down here. So I'm going to get it and come up, come up, come up. And right about there it's thinner, so I'm going to lighten my pull, but still go all the way around each time before I move up till I get to the top. A little choke. Compress the rim. And now I should have a pretty decent cylinder. We're at 6 1/4 inches, 1 pound of clay. The outside diameter is 3 1/2. The inside diameter is now 3. So that means the wall has gotten thinner. And I'm going to push my finger gently up and against the rib and move my rib up and push against it gently all the way to the top. This compresses the clay and makes it really strong. Again, I'm going to compress that rim, make sure that it's in good shape. Now, I'm going to clean up the bottom of this pot, and in doing it, I want you to watch how to use what I call a wood knife. I often refer to it as a wood stick. So if you study with me a lot and you hear me say wood stick, I am talking about the wood knife. I'm going to come in here and take this little skirt off. So this part of the beveled knife, I point toward myself. See how it's turned toward me? And I'm going to take this skirt off by coming in with it pointed toward me so that it makes the clay pull away from the pot. If you don't have this angled right, it will just be stuck right back on the pot. So I'm going to do it again. Let's cut that clay away from me. Now, I have a nice straight wall all the way up. I'm going to take this same wood knife and come down real low with the bevel toward me and undercut under the pot. And the bevel toward me will still move that clay away. All right, so that looks pretty good. What we have accomplished with 1 pound of clay is a 6 1/4 inch cylinder, 3 inches inside diameter. Wait a minute. Yeah, 3 inches inside diameter. Outside diameter is 3 5/8, so just a smidge over 3 1/2 inches. All right, so that looks pretty good. I'm gonna cut this open, and I recommend you do that too, and look at your handiwork. And to cut your cylinder open, you hold the wire tightly in your fingers, press your fingers down on the bat and pull it halfway through the pot and then come straight up. And if you haven't used too much water, and I hope you haven't, you should be able to take this off and see the wall. Now you see I have a nice floor, and here's an even wall all the way up. See that wall? See how close together the throwing rings are on this cylinder? That's what you want to see. Now, it's your turn to do it. And do it a lot of times. Cut it open. Enjoy the process. It takes time. It is harder than it looks. Please have a blast doing this. Cut your cylinders open, evaluate them, and I bless you in doing it. It is such a delight to make pottery, and I can tell that if you work at these techniques, you're going to be on your way to making wonderful pots.